"You can't take her," Grady Holt said. Not loud, just steady. The words sounded like a fence post set true. 3 riders held the yard, the way men hold a card they plan to play. Dust rode the heat and tapped at porch boards. Rook Maddox lifted a folded paper. "Writ of retrieval, signed and sealed. Step aside, rancher." Grady took it in his left hand. His right still kept the oil-dark windmill wrench down by his thigh. He read without hurry. The seal was smeared. The date was wrong by 3 days. There was no clerk's countersign, only a greasy thumbprint. June Avery stood inside the door with her sleeve torn and a blue mark along her jaw. She did not speak. A wet cloth lay in the basin. Grady wrung it and handed it to her. "Ma'am." She pressed it to her neck and watched. "You done?" Rook said. Behind him, 2 riders sat easy, guns low, the way men sit who'd rather not fire but won't mind the sound. "This paper's wrong," Grady said. "There's law in Juniper Bend. Bring the sheriff, not a rumor with a stamp." "Sheriff's busy," Rook said. "Deputy Cutter will read it at sunup." "Then daylight suits me," Grady said, and handed the writ back, by a corner. He stepped so the wind took the grit on his shoulder, not on June's face. "You're making trouble for yourself," one rider said. "No," Grady said. "I'm asking for daylight." They turned and trotted off. A far bell in town knocked twice and quit, as if the rope had slipped an old hand. Wind paused. Grady set the wrench on the rail and breathed. His right shoulder ached the way it did before weather. He shut the door, shot the bolt. "You're safe for the night," he said. "Tomorrow we make it legal." June lowered the cloth and nodded. Up close, he saw the print of fingers in her skin. He poured water. She drank. "They had me sign a paper I couldn't read," she said. "A foreman talked over me. I never saw the clerk's face." "We'll let a doctor note bruises," Grady said. "We'll let a telegraph tell what the paper says, not what men say it says." She looked at his hands. "You fix windmills?" "I fix what breaks and turns," he said. "Tonight, that's you and the law." He wedged a strip of leather in the latch so the door wouldn't rattle and wake her. He rolled his bed by the threshold. "You don't have to," she said. "Wind's wrong," he said. "If they come early, I want my boots on." She stood a while. "Thank you." He nodded. The cloth at her throat picked up lamplight, turned to dull pearl. From the wash, a coyote barked and got no answer. He let his breath come slow and thin. The same rule he learned on the railroad held true here. You watched, you listened, you lived slower than your fear. Deep in the night, a single horse passed on the road and kept going. He counted that as a mercy and dozed with the wrench across his thighs. Near dawn, he brewed coffee and set 2 cups, though she might not drink. Habit mattered. She came out with her hair braided back and her face clean. The bruises showed darker. "I can stand on my own," she said. "I know," he said. "Stand behind me anyway." The sun pushed a pale brace of light across the yard. A tumbleweed hopped the fence and stuck. A hen clucked under the steps. Far off, the first hammer at the livery rang metal on metal. Dust lifted on the road. 3 riders, Rook in front, grinning. Deputy Wade Cutter beside him, badge neat and boots shined with someone else's rag. A third man with a book under his arm, the kind who holds paper like it's a loaded pistol. Grady stepped out and let the screen door ease shut. The men drew up at the steps. Cutter smiled and tapped his badge. "Morning," the deputy said. "Let's be quick." Cutter held the paper like a preacher with a Bible. "By authority of Mesquite County. Produce the woman." Grady stepped down 1 tread. "You'll read that in front of Sheriff Hartley," he said. "On his porch or in his office. Not here." Rook's grin soured. The third man shifted a ledger under his arm. "We don't fetch the sheriff. Folks fetch him." "Then ride," Grady said. "I'll be in town by noon." Cutter weighed it. He tapped the seal once. "Noon," he said. "Don't fail to appear." They turned their horses. Iron rang, then faded. Grady set the bolt. June stood with her hands tight at her sides, cloth folded neat. "You heard him," she said. "I heard," he said. "We'll go speak to the law." He poured coffee, set the tin in her hands. The morning opened clean, Flies at the trough, a pale wash over the far butte. They saddled and rode. Juniper Bend stirred, a boy sweeping the mercantile steps, Widow Alma at the livery, Tess McCready sliding the telegraph window. "Morning, Miss Tess," Grady said. She saw June's face. "Trouble?" "Paper trouble," he said. "Is Hartley in?" "In at 9, she said. "You want me to wire him?" "Wire that we wait on his stoop," Grady said, "and wire Las Gaviotas to verify writ number and seal." Tess nodded, hands at the key. He read the number off the fold. Brass and steel ticked like crickets. Doc Hester Bloom crossed from her clinic. "With your leave, ma'am." June gave leave. Doc's touch was quick, gentle. Neck, jaw, left shoulder. She wrote it down neat, then went for forms and wax. They waited on the sheriff's stoop. June sat. Grady stood. A freckled child came with a pail of nails. June told him the size he needed. He straightened and trotted off. A small click at June's hem. A white porcelain button rolled and lay chipped as a bitten moon. She turned it in her fingers, as if it remembered her name. "Keep it," Grady said. "Some things prove more than stamps." Sheriff Hartley came at a plain walk, hat low. "I got wired," he said. "We'll give the Sun its say." Noon drew a rim of heat along the eaves. Cutter rode in with Rook and the bookman. Folks thinned the street. Cutter dismounted and placed the writ in Hartley's hand. The sheriff read it twice. "Seal's clean," Hartley said, "but the date says Sunday. Clerk doesn't work Sundays." He looked at the bookman. The man swallowed. He made an exception. "Law writes exceptions," Hartley said. "Where's the addendum?" No answer. Hartley lifted his eyes to Cutter. "Who stamped this?" Cutter's smile thinned. A breeze moved the red dust like breath over a body. Tess stepped out with a slip. "Las Gaviotas reports no such writ this week," she said. "Also says the seal design changed last year. This one's old." Rook's hand fell near his belt. Grady did not move. Hartley folded the paper once across the middle, slow as a man folding a lie. "This writ is held for inquiry," he said. "The lady is not to be moved. If Mr. Pike objects, he can object where benches and flags live." Cutter breathed through his nose. "You're making yourself a costly enemy, Amos." "I've had enemies with better manners," Hartley said, and pocketed the paper. June's hands trembled. She set them flat on her skirt until they steadied. "Ma'am," Hartley said, "you're under the protection of this office. Doc Bloom will record her findings. Mr. Holt, you'll give a statement. Miss Tess, keep that line hot." "Yes, Sheriff," Grady said. Cutter stepped back. "We're not done." Grady said, "We're not afraid of done." He gave June the tin again. She steadied it with hands, took a sip, and breath came easier. She tucked the button in her pocket slowly. Doc Bloom cleared the desk, warmed a stick of wax, set a ledger sheet. "With your say-so, ma'am." June nodded. The room smelled of carbolic and pine. "Bruising to jaw and neck," Doc said. She pressed muslin, lifted, and dripped wax, stamping her clinic seal. "Chain of custody starts now." Sheriff Hartley stood by the window with the writ. He had folded it once. Now he traced the seal. "Old design, and the date is a Sunday." He looked at the bookman in the hall. "You got a clerk's note?" The man hugged his ledger. The clerk obliged the company. "Emergency business." "Law keeps records. Not emergencies," Hartley said. He handed the paper to Grady. "You see that smear?" "Grease, not ink," Grady said. "Thumbprint." Deputy Cutter leaned in the doorway. "You folks aim to turn this into a stage show?" "It's already a stage," Doc said. "We're writing it down so a judge can see the set." Tess poked her head in. "Wire from Las Gaviotas. No writ in that sequence. Also they ask who stamped Sundays." Hartley looked at June. "You willing to swear how they rushed you?" June met his eyes. "I never saw the clerk. They talked over me." No new seal. Doc inked the muslin and the edge of June's collar, lifted impressions, sealed a second envelope. 2 copies, 2 stamps. 1 for court, 1 for sheriff. Hartley said, "Mr. Holt, I'll want your statement. Times, names." "Rook Maddox, Deputy Cutter." The writ read clean till we looked. The bookman spoke. "Mr. Pike won't like this delay." "Mr. Pike can rent a chair," Hartley said. "He can sit and dislike things." Cutter's gaze cut to Grady. Paper or no paper, she goes back. She's not property, Grady said. The words stayed like a nail set true. Tess, still at the jam, said, "One more thing. Last night, I caught a burst off the Pike warehouse line. 3 letters, then numbers, same as freight pulls." "Read it," Hartley said. "RLD 12, then a time mark," she said. "Means a cart trains at 12 loads." Hartley's eyes went thin. "They'll try muscle since they lost the paper." "Don't put words on me," Cutter said. "I put them on the air," Hartley said. "If they fit your hand, that's yours." He turned to Grady. "I can't be on your porch all day. I'll post notice and call a porch hearing at sundown if Pike insists. Till then, you keep the line. No hotheads, no first shots." Grady said, "I prefer benches." "You'll get benches," Hartley said. "But Pike likes theater." Doc pressed the last seal and handed Hartley the envelopes. "If they try force, I'll ring the church bell." "That rope's worn," Tess said. "It'll hold once more," Doc said. "If it breaks, I'll shout." June rose. "Sheriff, if they come to the porch, I'll stand there. I won't hide." Hartley tipped his hat. "Stand where you choose, ma'am. You're under this office." Grady slid the windmill wrench through his belt loop. He looked at Cutter. "Tell Mr. Pike the law runs on evidence and witnesses. We have both." Cutter's mouth twitched. "You have a porch. He has a county." "We'll see what counts," Grady said. Cutter and the bookman stepped away. "Sundown," the deputy said. "Don't be late to your own stoop." They went into heat and dust. Doc set a tin cup in June's hands. "Sip," she said. June obeyed. Hartley pocketed the sealed paper. The sound on cloth was small and sure. "They'll push," he said. "Let them test the line. We'll meet them with the book open." He squared his badge. Outside, a hammer rang at the livery. Inside, the clock ticked. Grady touched the porch rail on his way out, counting boards. He pictured the steps, the bell rope, the wrench's weight. Daylight was on his side, steady. They came at sundown, like men who thought dark would lean their way. Rook rode beside Cutter, and a string of Pike's hands fanned along the road. Grady stood on the top step, with the windmill wrench at his belt. June sat in a chair inside the door, where she could be seen and not touched. A last red line held on the butte. "Terms," Grady said. "No one crosses this rail. No one names her property. We speak plain. Sheriff's on his way." Cutter smiled. "Sheriff can read later. We'll read now." He raised a fresh writ. Seal neat. Clerk's name proper. Rook's men spread a little more. Boots creaked. Grady kept square to the rail. "You try the rail, you lose the day. You want law? Wait on it." Widow Alma came with a tray and 3 tin cups, sweating cold. She set it on the rail between both sides. She left one cup toward the road and one toward the door, hoping the space between them might cool hot talk. Town watches. "Before men argue," she said, "drink a mouthful and remember we're people." Rook eyed the cups and laughed low. Cutter did not drink. Grady lifted one and set it back untouched. June watched through the screen. She held herself straight, though the bruise at her jaw had gone the color of a storm plum. Her thumb rubbed a white chip of broken button, the way a soul rubs a prayer smooth. A boy from the mercantile stood near the fence. "Back home now," Grady said. The boy went, looking over his shoulder at men and paper and a rail that had become law for the hour. "Porch hearing," Grady said. "Witnesses present. Speak your claim." Cutter blew out a breath. "Company indenture. The lady fled work owed." He held up the paper. "Signed and sealed." Doc Bloom stepped from the side gate, sleeves rolled. "Sign here, ma'am?" "No," June said. "They spoke over me. I never saw the clerk." Doc held up a small envelope. "Medical record?" "Chain sealed." "Tess," Grady called. The telegraph girl lifted a strip from her pocket. "Las Gaviotas reports no writ issued Sunday. No seal of that design in use." She tucked the slip back like a card already played. The men on the road shifted. Rook spat. "Big show for a doorstep." "It beats a grave," Grady said. Cutter's jaw worked. "You keep her and Pike lose his face. That dog will bite something." "Let him bite the bench," Grady said. Hoofbeats from town. Sheriff Hartley came with 2 men. He tied off, climbed the steps, and stood to Grady's right, not ahead. He studied the paper. "This new one is cleaner," Hartley said, "but it carries the wrong witness mark. Old clerk pressed in a new ring. Somebody's mixing years." He faced the men. "The lady stays. Tomorrow we seat a hearing." Cutter touched his badge with 2 fingers. "Mr. Pike will attend." "Good," Hartley said. "He can learn what the rest of us did." Rook grinned. "Lesson is, the county belongs to the man with the biggest purse." A small wind cooled his shirt. He said nothing. June's chair scraped once and stilled. That sound said enough about lines and which side folks meant to live on. Cutter folded the paper into his coat. "Sundown's done. We'll see you at the benches." They turned their horses. Widow Alma picked up the tray and held it like a small shield as the riders passed. "I'll leave a jar on your porch," she told June, low. "For the night." "Thank you," June said. Hartley spoke quiet. "Keep 2 lamps lit and a 3rd cold. If they try to make a fire of this, we'll have light and a record." He tipped his hat. The yard thinned. The last red line bled out of the butte. Grady checked the latch and hinge pins, set the wrench by the jamb, and sat the top step. Night would test the line. He meant to hold. The forge breathed. Caleb Redbird worked the bellows, leveled a shoe. Sparks climbed, then died like gnats. Heat in the rafters, breath held tight. Grady shut the door. Tess McCready sat a crate by the anvil. Doc Hester Bloom spread a cloth, set 2 muslin envelopes, a bar of wax, a brass stamp. "We do this quiet," Grady said. "No flames, no bodies. We take paper that speaks." "Warehouse has a side hatch," Tess said. "Bay 2, east wall. Watch plays cards till 11. Pike keeps the shipping ledger on a chain. I can loosen the clip, not the chain." "I can pop a link," Caleb said. "Bring it. I'll lay it back like it never moved." Doc warmed the wax. "Whatever you lift lands here. I stamp place and time while it's warm. Chain of custody, straight as track." Tess tapped her slips. "Last night the line through, RLD 12. Load train at midnight, 12 wagons. If we're right, they mean to haul people like freight." "Not if a judge can hear," Grady said. Doc eyed June's feet. "Boots?" "They kept them," June said. Caleb fetched a tired pair from a peg. "Stand." He split a flour sack for lining, cut heel pads from felt, warmed them on the forge so the glue would take. He measured with a string, said nothing. June slid a foot in. Her shoulders eased. Caleb nodded, like a gate had set true. Grady set the plan. "Doc stays with stamp and clock. Tess and I take a ledger page and red seal freight slips. Caleb waits in the alley by the drain. If we catch heat, we run the wash." "The wash chokes at night," Caleb said. "It's a door we can close," Grady said. Tess chalked a quick map on the bench. "I can talk the watch 5 minutes. They owe me for mending the wire." Grady checked his cracked watch. "We move at 10. Tess lowered her voice. "Somebody's feeding Pike the playbill. He knew sundown and a clerk's hand." "Who?" Grady said. "Could be a boy. Could be a badge." Doc set an envelope in Grady's palm. "If you can't lift a page, bring a rubbing, a number, a smear of red seal. I'll swear what it means." Caleb barred the back door. "I'll sit the alley and listen to boots. If they come heavy, I'll toss a hammer where they ain't." June thumbed a chipped white button, then tucked it in her pocket. "If I hear the church bell, I'll pull the 2nd rope at your porch. It drops the bar." "We'll leave 1 lamp cold and 1 lit," Grady said. A horse shied outside. Men laughed, then cut it off too neat. Caleb lifted his chin. "Somebody's watching the wash." Grady set the bar. "Then the wash is theirs. We won't run there." "Where then?" Tess said. "Across the livery roof," Grady said. "Down the feed ladder, through the yard, into the old culvert by the cottonwoods." Doc blew the lamp and left the wick set. "No speeches," she said. "Paper and breath. Bring both back." "I hear you," Grady said. 1 star hung over the livery, sharp as a tack. From the alley a bottle broke. Then quiet. Tess folded her slips and slid them away. Grady felt the windmill wrench against his thigh. It waited. They went still and let the hour come on. Doc's clock ticked, small and steady. Caleb sat by the back door, eyes on the gap. June set her braid, lifted her chin. She looked more than the mark on her jaw. Grady answered with a nod. The bell in town knocked twice. The wire would soon gossip down the poles toward Pike's men. Grady counted slow and kept the count inside his breath. "Time," Tess whispered. "Almost." He laid his hand over the envelopes. The wax cooled under his palm. Plans hardened like iron meeting air. A rider's shadow crossed the window and drifted on. 10, he said. "Let's go make their paper. Tell the truth." The town let out its last breath. One bright star hung like a tack above the livery. Tess slid to Bay 2 on the east wall and flashed a coil of bad wire. 5 minutes, she told the watchman. He handed over the key, glad to matter. She walked him to the pole, pointed at a harmless splice, kept him turned. He nodded at nothing. Grady and June ghosted through the side hatch. Caleb waited by the drain with a strip of rawhide. Doc Bloom sat 2 streets off with her lamp low and the clinic seal warming. Inside smelled of tallow and red dust. A ledger sat on a lectern, chained. Red-sealed freight slips lay in a tray. Tess whispered, 5, not 6. Grady eased the ledger open. June shaded a lantern. Columns ran like fence posts. Dates and weights marched the margin. A tiny note read RLD 12. 12 wagons at 12. A moth hit the lantern. June cupped it, let it steady, and it wobbled off. "Look for RLD 12, Tess said. "Heavy downstrokes." "There," June breathed. Grady slid Doc's muslin under the page and rubbed a pencil sideways, raising ghost words. Tess copied the codes. June palmed 3 freight slips, put 2 back, left 1 gap neat as a clerk's mistake. The chain creaked. Grady's bad shoulder pinched. He went still until it cooled. Footsteps outside. Caleb called, easy as water. "That you, Hank?" The steps moved on. The ledger showed Pike & Co., freight and mining, and under it, in tight hand, W. Cutter. Consignment. Tess wrote it. June's breath caught like a page turning. A wet, red stamp sat fresh. Grady kissed a clean scrap to it and lifted a trace. "Doc can match it." "Time," Tess said. They left no speech behind. Tess locked the door and hung the key back where it had slept for years. In the alley, Caleb said, 2 men drifted by, not drunk, listening. "Roof," Grady said. They crossed the livery roof and slid down to the back lot, then into the old culvert under the cottonwoods. Water talked to rock in a whisper. June slipped. Grady caught her and felt that hot pull along his scar. He set her steady. "Wait," she said, and stooped. A white chip had pinged loose. She found porcelain button and closed her fist around it like a vow. Lantern light combed the yard above. Rook's voice slouched through the dark. "Open your eyes. They ain't birds." Grady pressed them into shadow. Tess pressed the sealed envelope inside his vest. "If we split, you keep the numbers," she said. "Meet at Doc's, knock twice, then once." The beam swung off, then back. Dust winked. "See that?" a man said. "Wind," another said. "Wind don't leave boot scuffs," Rook answered. Caleb tossed his hammer into the far weeds. The clatter turned heads. Grady counted 1, 2, 3, and moved them low along the culvert mouth. A splinter kissed his sleeve and woke a warm thread in his shoulder. He made no sound. The wrench lay across his palm like a quiet promise. They slid out by the cottonwoods into deeper dark, crossed a short fence behind the clinic, and rapped at the high window. Twice, then once. A cord dropped a pouch. Grady fed the envelope, the stamp trace, and Tess's code slip. The cord drew up. The window shut soft. From the clinic window, a small clock ticked. The warmed seal waited to turn loose, paper into evidence. The pouch, rising on the cord, felt like faith. "Now the wash?" Caleb said. "No, straight street, slow." June snugged the tired boots Caleb had lined. They held her ankles true. Grady rolled his shoulder, measuring what still carried weight. They stepped out like men who belonged. The town held still, listening. Down by the freight office, a lantern bobbed and stopped. Rook's voice came in soft. "Found you." Rook's voice came easy from the dark. "Found you." Grady didn't turn. "Keep walking," he said, low. They slid behind the livery. Caleb pried a pit bar from the fence. June kept pace, boots steady because a friend had lined them. Rook called, "Don't hurry off. Mr. Pike's got manners to teach." "Roof?" Tess asked. "No time," Grady said. "We go for the trestle." Back lots gave to open ground, and the freight spur over a dry cut. Night made the cut deeper. A lone star over the butte burned like a nailhead. Hooves behind, many. Grady handed Tess the windmill wrench. "Two hands. Take a gun, not a skull." She nodded. June carried empty pouch, fist tight. The trestle rose, bent like ribs. Planks creaked under their own weight. "Caleb," Grady said. "I know those spikes," Caleb answered. He ducked to the chest under the watch shed, found a drift and sledge, and lifted 2 dogs just enough to slick a boot, not enough to kill a man. "Law don't need a corpse." Rook's crew hit grade. A newsboy froze at the shine of horses. Grady hooked the kid by the collar and swept him onto the berm. "Home," he said. The boy ran. First rider hit the dogged plank, windmilled, sat down, and lost his gun to the dark. Tess swung the wrench and sent a second pistol skittering. June towed it under a plank and tamped dust over it. Rook read the track, spared the booby boards, rode the tie-ends, reached the far side, and turned his horse crosswise. "Back to the warehouse," he said. "You're done." Grady tipped his head toward the drop. "Step off and fetch us?" "Sure," Rook said, smiling. Cutter wasn't there. Maybe the deputy kept his hands clean till benches. 2 riders crowded the near throat. Caleb rolled a loose spike with his boot. A mount slid, went to its knees, rider sprawling. Grady caught the man by his coat and set him down. "You got a wife?" "Maybe," the man said. "Go keep that," Grady said. June's breath sawed. Tess held the wrench low. Rook said, "You don't win a county, Holt. You can hold a porch and a bridge one night, maybe 2. Mr. Pike buys the rest." "Then let him buy a judge," Grady said. Hooves pounded from town. Lamps bobbed. The trestle sang under the new weight. "We cross," Grady said. "Single file, tie-ends." Caleb went first. June came behind, hands wide, boots feeling truth the way a blind man reads a hymn. Grady walked backward, eyes on Rook. 2 shots cracked wide. A splinter kissed Grady's sleeve. Midspan, a spur wagon creaked on the far bank. Caleb swung down, kicked the chalk, and let the wagon roll back to open a gap. Rook laughed. "You bleed and you still think. That's why you're trouble." "Thinking keeps men out of the ground," Grady said. Tess reached the bank and turned. She held the wrench like a bell clapper that hadn't rung yet. "Now," she said, quiet. They made the last 10 yards in 3 steps. A gust lifted a thin sheet from Tess's pocket, the rubbing of ledger lines, and slung it into the dark. It flashed once, like a white bird, and vanished into the cut. Rook watched it go and clucked his tongue. "Well now," he said, pleased. "Looked like proof to me." Grady let the small grief pass, slowly. "We still have the stamp trace," Tess said. "And more we'll take," Grady said. "Push them," Rook told his men. Caleb snapped another dog. The near horse reared and refused. June hurled the hidden pistol into the cut. Metal rang and men flinched at their own noise. "Enough," Grady said, and they ran into cottonwood shadow. The bridge took their echoes and drowned them. Behind, Rook's laugh thinned on the night. "You lost your paper, cowboy," he called. "County's still ours." Morning went pewter. Grady's shoulder burned, but the porch had held, and June stood steadier than the door. They reached the sheriff's office before rumor. Doc Bloom had made a desk into a bench. The muslin envelopes lay ready, the brass seal warmed near the lamp. Grady set down the pouch he'd raised to her window. Out came the stamp trace and Tess's code slip. Doc pressed wax, soft knocks like a quiet heart. Exhibit A, Pike's red seal, lifted at 10:45. Exhibit B, telegraph codes, time marked. Tess kept her chin high. "Warehouse line through RLD 12 at 1 past midnight," she said. Then a note. "Consignment, W. Cutter." I copied it before the ledger shut. Sheriff Hartley looked at her a long beat. "You swear?" "I do." Caleb laid a greasy kerosene chit on the blotter. W. Cutter, after hours. Same night their seal went fresh. Deputy Cutter lounged in the doorway. Scraps and spit. Mr. Pike carries the county. You carry string. Hartley said, "Bring the paper you plan to wave at folks." Cutter produced a clean writ. Seal sharp, clerk's mark proper. Hartley held it to the window light, then set it beside the chit. "New words on old stock," he said. "Same trim bite as last year's book? Who dressed you out of the rag bin, Wade?" Cutter looked past him to June. "Contract keeps a roof over your head, lady." "I keep my own," June said. Doc didn't touch her, just set her hand nearby. "Noted." Hartley reached and unpinned the deputy's star. It came free with a dry snap. The room went still the way a church does when a hymn dies. Cutter's shirt looked thin without it. Rook Maddox drifted in with his hat low. "Mr. Pike's on the boardwalk with counsel and another writ," he said. "Wants a polite settlement." "Polite is welcome," Hartley said. "Fraud isn't." Outside, a freight bell clanged once, then again. Folks turned their heads. Dust stood like breath. 2 city coats came first, shoes too clean for Juniper Bend. Barrett Pike strode between them with a rolled paper like a toast. "Sheriff," Pike smiled. "Fresh writ, proper seal. We'll be taking company property." June didn't rise. Hartley didn't take the paper. He looked at the badge in his palm, at Doc's seals, at Tess and Caleb, then at Grady. 3:00 hearing," he said. "Benches and flags. The lady remains." "This delay costs money," Pike said. "It buys decency." Pike glanced at Cutter's bare shirt. His smile sharpened. 3 then. Don't mislay your courage." He turned. The city men went with him as if pulled by a string. Rook lingered. "Paper's got teeth, Holt." "So do people," Grady said. "Our sign where a judge can see." Rook chuckled. "You talk pretty for a man with a barn wrench." He tipped his hat toward June and left. Hartley slid the star into a drawer and shut it. "Lock your porch bar in daylight," he told Grady. "Doc, keep that chain warm. Tess, sit the wire. Caleb, mind your alley." He faced June. "If any part of you wants to run, say it." "I ran once," she said. "I'm done." "Good," Hartley said. "At 3, we'll find out what this town believes about itself." The minute hand on the wall clock ticked like a nail driven slow. Grady felt the wrench's weight, the ache under his scar, the push of the day on his neck. He could hold. He had held worse. "Then we get ready," he said. "And make sure paper tells the truth for once." Doc set a cedar box for the sealed pieces. Tess oiled her key and fed fresh ribbon. Caleb checked the nails in his vest. Grady pictured the porch rail and the bell rope. June smoothed her collar, slipped the chipped button into her pocket. Heat lifted off the street like a tired breath. The territorial courthouse lay a day south through cattle flats and the narrow cut called Needle Eye. By noon the town had chosen sides. Hartley read the drift. "We move at dusk." Escort stayed small. Hartley driving a canvas-topped buckboard. Tess at the tailgate with the wire pouch. The cedar box wedged between feed sacks. Grady riding flank. June beside him. Caleb trailing with a plain carbine. Doc Bloom sealed the lids twice and wrote the chain. "This box goes to benches," she told June. "And you go as a person." They rolled from Alma's livery. At the last pump, Caleb filled canteens and left coins on the post. They took the south road past Cottonwoods. Halfway out, the wheel sang dry. June took Grady's needle case and stitched his torn sleeve without asking. "You shouldn't meet the law looking ragged," she said. He said only, "Thank you," and felt steadier than cloth. Dust knots formed behind and unformed again. "Scouts," Caleb said. "We won't race shadows," Hartley said. "We'll be on time." Needle Eye rose like 2 closed palms. Hartley halted. "2 parties," he said. "I drive the box. Grady, take June and Caleb along the goat path with the extra sealed packet. If they anchor the floor, you keep moving." He pressed a second envelope into Grady's vest. "Enough for a judge, even if the box splinters. If the throat plugs, cut east for Mission Wash." They split. The buckboard rolled into shadow like any farmer's load. Grady led up the path where scrub held to rock like poor folks to what's theirs. Sutter Vale waited in the cut with 2 men and a chain across the floor. A hooded lantern hung low. "Turn 'em," Sutter said. Make 'em balk till Mr. Pike catches up. Hartley stood to the break. Afternoon, chain's not law. You boys got paper? Plenty, Sutter said. Private road. Territory owns the gap, Hartley said. You want to quarrel with a map? Bring it to benches. He set both hands on the chain. Move this, he said, or I name you first in my report and read it aloud. Up on the rim, a scout whistled like a man not sure he wants what he came for. Sutter tipped his chin. The chain dropped an inch. Hartley rolled through. Sutter spat. That box won't see Las Gaviotas. Maybe not, Grady said from the rock. Paper will. They made the far mouth and came down into scrub again. The road bent toward Mission Wash. Behind them, dust gathered into a darker line. We keep pace, Grady said. We don't run and we don't stop. Tess looked back from the tailgate. Wire said RLD 12 at noon, she murmured. If Pike missed us in the cut, he'll wait where the road narrows. Hartley nodded once. Then we'll narrow choices first. At last light, the wash opened. Caleb rode ahead and came back slow. Fresh sign, he said. 3 sets pulled off. They're crouching, not camping. Hartley studied the bend. No sprint, he said. We stretch them. How? Tess said. Grady pointed with his chin. Split again. Box keeps rolling. Caleb and I walk the lip with the extra pouch. June rides the seat with Hartley where every eye can count her face. June said, Count it then. I'm done being a rumor. Hartley spoke to the team the way a man talks to mules he respects. The buckboard moved into the long throat. Grady and Caleb kept to the ragged edge where catclaw can bite a man quiet. A lantern winked once and died. Steel clicked on stone. Air cooled the way air does when men hold their breath together. Head up, Hartley said. Keep your seat. Grady touched the sealed packet in his vest. It beat like a small, stubborn heart. Steady, he said, to the day more than himself. Steady and true. Good. They reached Mission Wash after moonrise, a few shacks, a chapel bell, a telegraph hut. The team steamed. Alma Pratt came by a back trail with Oates and 2 neighbor women. Don't scold me, she told Hartley. Somebody has to boil coffee when men go make law. They stabled the horses and slid the cedar box under a bench inside the chapel. Tess checked the key and tapped the linesman's chart on the post. Wires live, she said. June sat on the chapel step and breathed slow through the ache in her jaw. Grady set the windmill wrench beside him like an extra rib. Wind shifted. The yard went dark. Lamps snuffed as if a hand snapped shut. A mule bawled. Someone shouted, Fire! Flame ran the livery eaves, fast as gossip. Box first, Hartley said. He and Caleb hit the chapel door. Smoke curled. Alma grabbed the bell rope and hauled. The first pull rang clean. The second burned smoke into her hands. The third stuck, and she leaned until her jaw set. Shadows rushed. Sutter Vale came like a man late to bad work. He clamped June's arm and dragged. Grady crossed the yard and hit Sutter's wrist with the wrench, not the skull. The hand let go. Sutter swung a short club. Sparks in the air and breath. Tess ran for the wire hut. A shape shouldered her off the stoop, tore at the latch, then fled at the bell's next hard clang. She shoved the window and banged the key. Juniper Bend, urgent, hold the circuit. Caleb came from the smoke, black as a stove door. Cedar box clutched tight. Water, he barked. Alma dumped a tub. It hissed. Caleb threw damp ash and feed, smothering flame at the chapel sill. The rope burned a stripe across Alma's palm. June caught her by the waist. I've got you, June said. Alma shook her head once and hauled again. Sutter barked, Take the girl, leave the box, and 2 men reached. Grady stepped through them, set a wrist, stripped a pistol, kicked it under the step. You want charges? He said. Make them easy to count. 1 man backed, the other slashed. Grady took cloth across the ribs, moved his feet, let pain cool. Hartley came low, lifted Sutter by belt and collar, and pitched him into a trough. Enough, the sheriff said. Hands visible. The men scattered. Sutter climbed out, spit, and ran. Hartley didn't fire. We take thieves to benches, not ditches, he said. The bell faltered. The rope parted like old hay. Alma sagged to her knees. June wrapped the burned palms in her skirt hem and breathed careful. Alma blinked and smiled crooked. "Thank you, honey. That did it." Smoke thinned. Folks from 2 ranches arrived with buckets. Tess banged the key again. The sound came back, thin, quick. "Marshal Malloy," she read. "Acknowledged. Hold person. Hold evidence. I ride before dawn." Hartley nodded. "We bed here. We move at first light." Grady wiped the wrench and belted it. He found the chipped white button under the step and set it in June's hand. "Keep this." She closed her fingers. "They keep trying to make me paper," she said. "I'm not paper." "No, ma'am," Grady said. "You're a person. Tomorrow, you're a witness." The bell hung quiet. Rope burned short. Alma flexed her bandaged hands and leaned her shoulder against June's. "You'll sleep between me and a wall," she said. "Nobody takes anything here." Wind came cooler and pushed the last smoke off. Grady checked the latch twice and lay on the floor inside the door with his boots on. Sleep came in scraps. He kept one hand on the wrench and the other over the second sealed packet in his vest. In the dark, it beat a steady little beat, stubborn as any heart. Outside, the cottonwoods ticked in the night. A coyote barked. Night stayed. Dawn found Mission Wash scorched, but standing. Hartley checked the cedar box and nodded. "We fetched the men who lit this," he said. Breathing. Caleb read the ground. 2 mounts left fast, left hind drags. "Rook's Bay," Grady said. His shoulder pulled, but held. Tess tightened the extra pouch under her vest. "Marshal Malloy's an hour out," she said. They rode south along the wash toward a slot folks called Box Nail, rock as a vice. Hoof marks freshened, then rang an echo. "Hold," Hartley said. He tied a white kerchief to his hand. "If a shot comes, it's mine." Suttervale stepped in the throat with a Colt. "Turn back," he said. "Paper don't help in rock." "Paper helps where benches are," Grady said. Sutter fired high. Grit stung. Caleb slid along a rib of shadow and clipped Sutter's wrist. The pistol clanged. Sutter swung a club. Grady met it with the windmill wrench, drove the iron into bone. Both weapons skittered under a ledge. Rook came left. Bay lathered. A canvas pouch bouncing on saddle strings. "Got your evidence," he said, jerking the knot loose. "Court won't see a page." "Give me the bag and the horse and I'll write you a soft line," Hartley said. Rook laughed and pushed for the choke. Grady moved like a man catching a runaway car. No talk, just habit. He stepped inside, caught rein, and jaw heaved. The bay slid. Rook hit rock, rolled, came up with a knife. Caleb's drift hammer rang stone by his ear. Rook flinched and slashed. Grady let the blade take cloth, jammed the wrench across his forearm, leaned until bone quit. The knife spun away. "Done," Hartley said. "Hands." June kicked the knife deeper. Sutter crawled for his Colt. Caleb set a boot on his wrist. "No." Hartley cuffed them with town irons. Grady opened the pouch. A smear of red, a rubbing, a small book robbed of its cover. "Not Doc's sealed set," he said. "Decoy from the chapel shelf." "They'd have burned it," June said. "Let them try," Tess answered, tapping her vest. "The real ride with me." Rook stared at the canteen as Grady unscrewed it. "Drink," Grady said. "Then talk straight." Rook drank. "Cutter paid cash," he said. Pike told him what to stamp. "We ran people on freight, same as ore." Hartley wrote slow, pencil-biting paper. "Names. Barrett Pike, Deputy Wade Cutter. Hank Doolin," Rook said. "Lyle under the trestle last winter. Quiet burial." Sutter spat dust. "You'll be dead by sundown for that." "Pike kills boys who keep quiet too," Rook said. Hartley closed his book. "Enough. We take them back. No parade, no new bruises." They climbed out under a noon sun. Grady walked the bay. The animal settled. June matched his pace and opened her palm, the chipped white button. "He almost took my name," she said. "He won't," Grady said. On the ridge, a dust flag showed riders. Tess shaded her eyes. "Marshal," she said. "That hat's federal." "Good," Hartley said. "We'll put these men under a star that doesn't fit on a shirt." They started for Mission Wash. Prisoners roped to saddles. Doc's seals beating Tess's ribs. Hartley's notes tucked flat. Rock let their steps go without echo. At the fence above the wash, Hartley halted to breathe the team. He checked. Cedar box intact, pouch safe, 2 men sullen. 1 more mile, he said, then benches. Rook studied Grady's wrench. You gonna break me the rest of the way? Not today, Grady said. You already chose the road. Keep to it. They took the slope slow. The chapel bell rope hung short and scorched, but the bell waited, dull and sure. Grady touched the wrench. Let the ache speak its plain piece. Let's finish it, he said. Time for paper to read itself. At last, now. Las Gaviotas, rose-white and square under noon sun. The courthouse smelled of oil and paper. Flags hung quiet, benches full. Marshal Malloy met them on the steps. No side talk, he said. He posted 2 men at the doors and hung his hat as if facts needed room. Judge Ira Benton took the high seat. We shall hear the company's claim, he said, and the answer. Barrett Pike came with 2 city coats. Deputy Wade Cutter sat tight, badge absent. Rook and Sutter were roped to chairs. June sat by Doc Bloom. Grady stood with Sheriff Hartley, Caleb, Tess, and Alma. The clerk read the writ. Its words were neat as fence wire. Benton nodded. For the defense. Doc Bloom set a cedar box on the table, warmed red wax, pressed her brass stamp. Exhibit A through E, she said, sealed at the times marked, bruising record, collar cloth impression, stamp trace from Pike & Co., red seal, freight slips, telegraph copy. Chain? Benton asked. Witnessed by me and the sheriff, Doc said. She cut a cord. Wax and carbolic scented the room. Tess took the stand. Warehouse line showed RLD 12, then W Cutter, consignment. Code matches Pike Freights. I copied it at 12:01. The city lawyer rose. Miss, you are not a sworn telegrapher. I am now, Tess said. Malloy stepped forward. Sworn 10 minutes ago. Caleb brought a horseshoe. Right hind of Rook's Bay is short-welded here, he said, tapping a lumpy bite of iron. We trailed that bite from the trestle to box nail. Same bite on hoof and ground. Admitted, Benton said. Hartley laid a kerosene chit on the rail. Deputy Cutter signed after hours the night the seal went fresh. The seal design is last year's. Clerk doesn't stamp Sundays. Las Gaviotas reports no writ by that number. He held up 2 sheets. New words on old stock. Clerk's error, the lawyer said. Not 3 that rhyme, Hartley said. Alma told the bell rope story, showed both bandaged hands. I pulled till it burned, she said. Neighbors came. Men fled. Benton turned to June. Speak only what you know. June stood. They talked over me. I never saw the clerk. I'm not under indenture. I'm a person. The word settled and stayed. Benton looked at Rook. Do you speak? Rook swallowed. Pike paid. Cutter stamped. We ran folks as freight. Sutter lit the mission wash fire. I tried to burn a ledger leaf and failed. Cutter half rose. Lies. Malloy's palm set him back. Pike's smile thinned. Your Honor, these theatrics? Paper is not theater, Benton said. It is memory. He rapped once. The writ is invalid on its face and void in its making. The lady is free. His pen moved again. Warrants shall issue for Barrett Pike and Wade Cutter for fraud, kidnapping attempt, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Marshal, hold them. Malloy nodded. 2 deputies stepped in. Steel touched skin with no flourish. Cutter stared at the floorboards. Pike's jaw worked. The smile was gone. Benton faced the room. Juniper Bend will try the rest at county. Today, the territory has done its part. He tapped his pen dry. Mr. Holt? Grady straightened. Sir. Your porch kept worse from happening, Benton said. A porch is not a court, but sometimes it holds the day till a court can open. Keep it a porch. Yes, Your Honor. June let out a breath held for months. She found the chipped white button in her pocket and closed it in her fist. Hartley handed Doc the orders. Tess folded her copy. Caleb set the horseshoe down gentle, as if a tired animal might sleep by it. Malloy lifted his hat. That's law, he said. Now we take them. The room stood. Sun washed the seal on the wall and made it glow like a promise kept. All set. They filed from the courtroom into white sun. Folks made a lane without talk. Malloy's men held the cuffs. Iron clicked plain. Pike wore a city smile that never reached his eyes. Cutter's jaw worked above a badgeless shirt. Rook and Sutter looked at their boots. June came with Doc Bloom and Alma. Grady stood by the steps, still as a fence post. 3 steps down, Pike reached for a guard's holster like a man tipping a waiter. Grady swung the windmill wrench and slapped the pistol at its hinge. Steel popped and fell, proud piece broken. Malloy's palm met Pike's chest. No. Cutter bolted left. His heels skated on a white chip that flashed. June's porcelain button shaken loose in the crush. He sprawled, hit hard, and quit running. Iron found him neat. June stared at the chip as if it held a name. Grady picked it up, rubbed it clean once, and folded it into his vest as a man saves a seed. Hartley came 2 steps down, hat in his hands. "I owe this town," he said. "I let a badge go blind in my house." He set his star on the top step for 1 beat, light ringing it thin as water, then pinned it back square. "I'll keep it clean, or not keep it." Alma stood with bandaged hands. Tess tucked her telegraph slip into Doc's cedar box. Caleb eased a scuffed horseshoe to the planks like a burden set down. Judge Benton's shadow blocked the doorway. "Marshal," he said, "move them." Malloy tipped 2 fingers. The column turned, the kind you want in a country that intends to last. Pike tried one more smile at Grady. "You and your porch. You think words beat money." "When they're sworn," Grady said. His shoulder ached and told the truth of it. Cutter's eyes slid to June and away. She didn't answer with words. She looked at Alma's burned palms, at Doc's seals, then out into a day with room in it again. On the square, a boy held a folded sheet. "Read," Alma told him. He sounded the orders careful. When he finished, folks exhaled together as if a tight band had been cut. Hartley faced them. "Some of us took Pike's money. Some looked away. Today we look straight. Tomorrow we keep looking. That's law. Eyes that don't blink." A small wind walked the cottonwoods. The town smelled of iron, soap, and something starting. Malloy's men set off with their prisoners, shadows long as wagon tongues. Benton went back inside. People drifted to chores, the way decent folks do once the noise is over. Grady waited a breath. Through glare he could see the southern road, the thin way home. He thought of a porch rail that had held, a bell rope that had burned Alma's hands, a chip that would not quite break. He touched his vest and felt it warm from him, not sun. June came to his side. "Is it over?" "It's begun," he said. "The good kind." "I'd like to go home." "Home's a porch and a latch that listens," he said. "We can make that." He took the cedar box from Doc so she could rest. "We'll set this safe, and then coffee." Hartley met them at the bottom step. He gave June his hand and did not squeeze. "I failed you," he said. "I'll come when you ring next time." "I hope next time is for a picnic," she said. It won a soft laugh, the kind that sounds like a blanket shaken and laid clean. They walked to the hitch rail. The sun had a little mercy to it now. Grady swung the box into the buckboard, checked the lash, and reached into his vest. He gave June the button chip. "I'll whittle a box for this," he said, "so your name has a place." She held it as if it might sing. "I think it does," she said. They climbed up. Wheels turned. The square opened. No music but good work and the creak of leather. It was enough. We went home slow together. They took the south road under a decent sky. No banners, just fence, dust, and the small sounds a wagon makes when weight begins to ease. Grady kept one hand on the reins and the other near the cedar box. June sat close, calm because the day had given her name back. At Dry Creek, the windmill turned like a patient clock. Grady set the brake and shelved the sealed papers. "Safe," he said. June looked over the room. A table rubbed smooth by other lives, a mended rug, a hook for a sun-tired hat. "Home enough," she said. Widow Alma came with a basket. Caleb brought new bell rope with a winter splice. Tess arrived with a school slate, and the grin of a girl who had stared down a county. Grady hung the windmill wrench back on its nail. The tool, a tool again. "Coffee," Alma ordered, and June laughed. Kids from the South Place drifted up, hats in fists. June set the slate on the rail. She printed A, then J, then a careful R. Law is for people, she said, and people have names. The children traced the letters, grave as deacons. Caleb spliced the rope, tossed the burned tail, tied the new line, and gave it one mild pull. The bell answered low and honest, like a neighbor at the door. Tess wrote the hour in a tiny book. "For the record," she said. Sheriff Hartley rode in as the light went kind. "How's the porch?" "Wiser than yesterday," Grady said. "Pike will hire counsel," Hartley said. "We'll see more paper, but we set a row of posts straight." He handed a clean ribbon. June tied it near the knot. Not prize, a marker a tired town could see. They ate on the steps, plates in laps, sun folding away. June poured second cups. Alma told a trail cook story. Tess laughed. Caleb swore he'd invent a gentler cure. Blue came on. Grady brought out a small pine box he'd whittled from kindling scrap. The lid swung on a nail. No squeak. Inside lay room. He set June's chipped white button there and closed it soft. Now it can't roll under boots. "I kept that piece to prove I wasn't a bill of sale," she said. "You never were," he said. "Cutter only forgot it." They sat quiet. A frog tried the dark. Wind sawed a fence wire once and let it be. Grady's shoulder knocked and eased. June drew the rope. The bell gave a single note. Neighbors would hear and think not of fire, but of rest. "Do we get to keep this piece?" she asked. "We can keep our part," he said. "The rest we meet standing." Tess rose. "Tomorrow I'll hold a schoolhouse hour on this rail. Pay me in coffee and stories." "Done," Grady said, "but stories shorter than the law." Caleb groaned. Alma poured anyway. Hartley set down his cup. "Tonight the county holds 2 men in irons because witnesses stood up and paper told the truth. If you pull that rope, I'll come." "May you come only for pie," June said. "That's the aim." Dusk took the yard. Fair at last. Calm Grady set the pine box by the door beside a stub pencil, a soft Old Testament, and the cracked watch he meant to fix. Those few items looked like a ledger that tallied decency instead of freight. June leaned her shoulder to his. "I thought I was alone. Not while a bell can ring and a porch can hold," he said. "Not while a town remembers how to answer." They watched the windmill take a slower turn. Grady drew a last breath for the day and gave it back easy. "What do we write on tomorrow?" June asked. "Nothing fancy," he said. "Work, store, school on the rail, somebody needs a hand, supper. Then we let the night file what's fair." She set his hand on the cedar box to seal its work. "All right," she said. "In this country," he said, "the law keeps a decent man upright, and decent men keep the law alive." When the dust settled and the bell rope hung quiet again, all that was left was a porch, a few friends, and the sound of coffee being poured into tin cups. Justice had been spoken, not shouted, and for once the law stood taller than any gun. Out here, peace never lasts forever. But for one evening, the windmill turned steady, and the names of good folks were safe. If a moment in this story struck you, or reminded you of someone worth standing up for, I'd be glad to hear it down in the comments. Sometimes a shared memory is the best way we keep these old trails alive.